Today we'll be reading a story called In the Beginning. This world is a lovely place, but it didn't start out that way. Before God made the world and everything in it, everything was dark. There were no living things. There were no flowers. There were no birds. There were no animals. There were no people. Then God said 4 simple words. Let there be light. For the first time, light appeared to divide the darkness and make day and night. This happened on the first day of creation. Heavy, wet clouds hung everywhere. So God spoke, and the clouds separated. Now there was a clear division between the sky above and the waters of the earth. The second day of creation came to an end. There was still no place for living things. So God moved the waters that covered the earth to make rivers and oceans. Dry land rose up out of the water. On the same day, God made the first grass and bushes and trees. Each kind had its own seeds, which spread plants over all the earth. All this happened on the 3rd day. The next day, God made the sun and the moon and the stars. God made the sun to rule in the daytime and the moon to rule at night, the stars to help light the dark night sky. At the end of the 4th day, God looked at what he had made, and he was pleased. There were still no birds or fish. They were made on the 5th day. On that day, birds filled the sky, and everything that lives in the waters was made. God was pleased with all these creations. On the 6th day, God made all the creatures that live on the ground, from the smallest insect to the largest animal. On the same day, God made his greatest creation, man. He used the dust of the earth to form the first man and breathed the breath of life into him. Man became a living person. The first man was called Adam, which means one made from dust. God gave Adam a lovely place to live, called the garden. The garden was planted where 4 great rivers came together. We know only one of them now, the Euphrates River. So that the garden would grow and remain beautiful, God made springs come up from the ground to water the earth. There were 2 special trees in that garden. tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God told Adam that he could eat the fruit of all the trees in the garden except the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God told Adam he would die if he ate the fruit from that tree. God gave Adam the job, but then God saw that Adam was lonely. So he put Adam into a deep sleep, took out one of his ribs, and closed up the skin. Then God used that rib, the first moon, and brought her to Adam. When Adam saw her, he was filled with happiness. He said, "She is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Because she was taken out of man, she will be called Adam, named her Eve." God was pleased. He looked at everything he had made. It was all very good. He rested. The beginning of sin. Adam and Eve lived happily in the Garden of Eden for a while. Yes, for a while they obeyed what God had commanded. Every day he came to the garden and talked with Adam and Eve. They were happy and remembered that God had said they should not eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Then one day a serpent spoke to Eve when she was near the forbidden tree. The serpent was really Satan. He said, "Eve, it won't do any harm for you to taste the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil." "No," Eve said. "God said not to touch it." But that didn't stop the serpent. He said that God was trying to keep the best things away from them. He said that it was because God didn't want them to be able to know good and evil like he did. The serpent convinced Eve that God didn't really mean what he said. So she took a bite of the fruit, and then she gave some to Adam, who ate it too. Right away, they both knew they had done something very bad. They had disobeyed God. That was the first sin. From then on, all humans would be sinners. God was very sad when he found out Adam and Eve had disobeyed him. He said to the serpent, "Because you lied to Adam and Eve, you will never be able to walk like other animals, but you will slither in the dirt. Humans will be your enemy, and one will come who will totally defeat you because you are the devil." God told Adam and Eve to leave the garden. From then on, they would have to work hard to make a living and to grow the food they needed. From dust they had been made, and when they died, their bodies would go back to dust. Jealousy and murder. When God sent Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, they found another place to live. After a little while, their first son was born. His name was Cain, and later they had a second son called Abel. One day, Cain and Abel each built an altar to offer gifts to God. Abel brought gifts from his flock. God was pleased with his offering, but God was not pleased with Cain's offering. Cain did not have the right attitude about giving his offering. When God refused his offering, Cain was angry. One day, when he and Abel were out in the lonely field together, Cain killed his brother. Later, God asked him, "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain was terrified. So he answered, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" God knew Cain was lying. He knew that Cain had killed Abel. He said, "Cain, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground where you spilled it. From now on, my curse will be on you. I will make you a wanderer, always running from men. And you will have to work hard to grow food. This punishment is too much for me, Cain said. You have driven me away from my family, and anyone who sees me will do his best to kill me. God had pity on Cain. He marked him with a special mark so that everyone would know that he was under God's protection. Cain and his wife